Has a little area code on it. Okay.
Begin this afternoon session of the Fremont County Commissioners. Sage, you want to introduce your guests, the executive judicial branch, the Cleveland courts discussion.
Okay, so we've got Victor Payne. He will be sitting up front. Judge Combs is here as well. Sally Bolts and Kurt.
Soccer.
I caught the first names, I didn't catch the last. I can't, having a hard time hearing.
Yeah.
Have a seat.
Here with me, or- okay.
Okay. Mr. Chairman, Commissioners, again, my name is Victor Payne. I'm the Chief Court Services Officer for the Administrative Office at the Judicial Branch. As Director Goff has said, we have back there Kurt Zunker. He is the Behavioral Health Manager, and Sally Voles. She is the Behavioral Health Program Coordinator. So I'm here today. First off, thanks for having us and allowing us the opportunity to speak with you. But I'll start going over kind of high level of the grant process and how the grant process works with the judicial branch. As you know, treatment courts and supervision came from Department of Health to the judicial branch on July 1st of 24. And so our grant process, the grant process we're going through currently is the grants for 27-28. And so those applications were due on December the 19th. And right now we're starting to work through those applications, reach back out to the programs if there were any anything missing, any additional information that we need. Our behavioral health committee will meet on January 29th. They will meet, I think that day we have it scheduled for 4 hours. They'll go through all the grants we've received, the applications we've received, and we'll make a recommendation for the amount of funding each program gets. And then that recommendation will be presented to our judicial council. And that judicial council will meet on March 9th and 10th to make a final determination of those grants and the awards. Once they meet, make those awards, we'll get those awards letters out. Hope to have them out as quick as possible before the end of March. And as many of you know, so one of the requirements for our grant is a 25% match from local, whether it be county, whether it be city. That requirement of the 25% match started with the Department of Health. They had it in their rules. That was where the requirement came from. When it moved over to the judicial branch, we continued that 25% match requirement for local counties. We do it, obviously the rules are not in place because those were Department of Health rules. We do it via the contract we do after the awards are out. One thing that I can tell you, we've looked through our current applications, and when you look at the amount of match that we've kind of seen here in Wyoming for treatment courts, is that many treatment courts aren't able to function just on that 25%. What we've seen across the board, if you take the average of our 16 treatment courts and their applications that we've received, and you remove the top high outlier, we have one that has a massive amount of match. If you remove that from the average ends up being about a 63% match to the grant. Again, I think there's really two numbers. So you have the 25% match that is required, and that's all the judicial branch requires for a program to be eligible is a 25% match. Again, what we found is to get to a fully effective treatment court, it usually requires more of a match to make that treatment court truly effective for what they need. And so those two numbers, obviously, a lot of times are a little different, and we can kind of dive into some of those if you would like here in just a little bit. The other thing I would talk about in the grant application is we have a surcharge. So the surcharge, but via statute, judges can charge a fee for drug, alcohol crimes. It cannot go over $50. It is optional, it is not mandatory via statute. So judges can waive that, unlike some of the other fees. Those then go into an account that money is also dispersed as part of the grant application. And so any program can ask for whatever amount they would like of surcharge money. Some programs ask for it for, unique things. They want to try something new and innovative. Some programs ask for it for training, to be able to train their staff, send their staff out whether it be national conferences, state conferences, those type of things. And so those requests come in as part of the grant application as well, and will be the Behavioral Health Committee will make a recommendation to the Judicial Council, and those will be dispersed as part of the grant as well. And the last thing I'll touch on briefly is really some of the economic benefits of treatment courts as a whole. I think there are some cost savings that, again, counties see as far as cost savings with incarceration, law enforcement involvement, cost savings from future prosecution, those type of things. I think there's a negative connotation sometimes with treatment courts that it's soft on crime, those type of things. And I think there's an argument for the opposite of that. There's really more supervision under these treatment courts. There's more testing. There's really more accountability. And so I think you have to look at those as well. And then the last piece I'll touch on is the economic portion of it. We did, with the judicial branch, we did a economic statement where we took both the county match for all of our programs, just the county portion, as well as county and state, so the grant and the county, and looked at what was the return on investment. So for the CAS program, we did not do it for our juvenile program, so we only did it for the adult programs. But for the adult program here in the CAS program, I think the county amount that we put in was $238,271. I think that was your portion at the last piece. And we looked at jail days avoided. So anybody in the program, what their original jail term would have been. And we figured that at a $95 a day rate. We looked at their salaries, their wages that they were getting when they were enrolled in the program. And they took that and took 60% of their income and figured that was spent locally and put that towards the local tax. And again, our data, I will tell you, our data is not the best at this point. We're working to get our case management system up to where we can have these every year going forward for every county that has a program. But with yours, just on the county, the return was $2 for every dollar invested. When you looked at jail days avoided, money spent back in the county at 60%, considering that we would assume 60% would be spent locally. Obviously, the other we figured would likely be spent out of county. When you looked at it from a state level with the full amount, one of the things that we did with that was we looked at it from when you bring in the state, we brought in prison days that could have been served. And that rate would have been $134 a night. If you look at it at full investment, it was a $5 return for every dollar spent for the Fremont County adult program. So I do think and again, I will preface that with, we use the best data that we had available, that Director Goff had available at the time as we were putting these together. We got them from all the programs and are hoping in the years going forward that we will have all of that information in our case management system and can spit these economic statements out and be provided on a yearly basis to any of the programs that are out there. So with that, I'm happy to stand for questions.
Questions?
Yeah, so tell me again with the 63%, what does that cover? That covers the state level, and what other maps or who else is involved in that 63%?
Absolutely. So, Mr. Chairman, Commissioner Fabricis, I will tell you that, so the 63% would be if we we have 16 programs that are treatment courts statewide. We have 16 programs, and 63% is the average of county match. If you remove, we have one outlier in that 16 that their match is like 200%. So we take that out of the average. That's just the average if you look across the state at what the match is. It's just an average of what it usually is. It really is trying to show that while the judicial branch only requires 25%, and that's all that's required for the grant from us, is many times to run an effective program, that match does have to be more usually. And I will tell you, if it helps us as well, I laid out the percentages and matches that we had through the 16 programs that are out there. And out of 16, so the Fremont County Adult, the CAS program was 10 out of 16 as far as match for what SAGE has asked for this funding cycle. And the juvenile was 11 out of 16 as far as match.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Questions, Commissioner?
Chairman, mine's not really a question. It's more of a, our juvenile treatment court, we'd really like to see that enhanced. Really like to see that increase. And so that's why we brought the new director on to help us to do what to do to get that have that happening. But in talking with our probation program, they have a lot of juveniles who are on probation. And maybe you, sir, can help me on this. And correct me, she said that the movement from the court was not happening for juveniles to go into JTC. I correct them or wrong?
That's what I
think I've heard.
And what we'd like to see is more movement from the court to move more juveniles into JTC so that we could increase JTC. Because in Fremont County, we have a huge problem with our juveniles and the issue of them getting cited or not cited, and they should be cited, and end up with huge amount of we've got a huge amount of crime issues, drug and alcohol issues with our juvenile. But our JTC, in the sense of our involvement in JTC, seems to be none, in the sense of none at all. But as I said before, when I asked the question here, Patty had stated it all starts from the issue of court. And I just wanted to see if that was true or not.
Judge Combs here for the record. Mr. Chairman, Sir, Mr. Thomas. The law requires that people in drug court be post-adjudication, which means they have to have pled guilty or pled no contest to the crime before they're eligible for a treatment court program. Now, that's not true in all states, but that's true here. Or they have to be adjudicated as a juvenile delinquent, which means that almost all people that would be involved in a juvenile treatment court would have to go through the juvenile court, which is the district court. So that would be Judge Condor and Judge McKay's courts. My court very rarely deals with juveniles. The circuit court, I deal with juveniles essentially only when they're charged as an adult with some sort of a minor crime. Many of the people in juvenile probation are on the diversion program, which means that that's instead of a court process, which means that they're not even eligible for the juvenile treatment court because they haven't gone through the court process. They're trying to avoid the court process by going through that diversion program. So the way to increase juvenile treatment court participation is to get kids in front of Judge Condor and Judge McKay, who could order them to do that. So that is the court that needs to be involved in that. All right. Most of our adults also come from district court because they're felonies. But right now, we have a very robust referral process from the county attorneys and public defenders to get people into the adult program. But increasing the juvenile program, we need to get county attorneys and the district court judges involved on that. That's really where that would come from.
Thank you.
That was exactly that was my question. Questions? So you said that for cast, we were 10 out of 16 as far as percentage contributed to their budgets. We thought we were actually contributing pretty extensively. I mean, we were complaining about that as well. And it looks to be whatever the legislature does to us next year or this year. It may be, we may be forced to dramatically reduce that. I mean, we may be 18th out of 16. I don't know if the other counties are saying the same thing.
Mr. Chairman, I think you're absolutely right. I think it's a struggle across the state. I will tell you the number where the adult program was 10th was, we used the numbers from Director Goff's most recent application, which I think she had, the 25% match was 70,159. So that was just the 25%. And I think she had her application filled out at getting $149,449.05 from the county. So that's the number we used. I will tell you, I think your previous 25, and I'm going on memory here, I believe you were considerably more than that in that particular match. I think you were around like 238,000 in that area. So with that match, you would have been more. I think the amount that Director Goff had submitted is actually $88,821 less than what the 25 was. So that's based on those numbers that were submitted for this grant application. Had we used those numbers and I could go back and look at what that contribution of the 238,000, I would say you all would certainly be higher on that chart if I put that on this chart. So that is really, those numbers are looking at what she had said she was potentially requesting this year or for 27 and 28, which was a reduction from what you all had approved in 25.
So so other counties are saying the same thing?
I think there's, Mr. Chairman, I think that there is across the state, there are counties that are having to make tough decisions, I think across the board. And so I think that you're in a hard spot. And I think that is not unique to Fremont County. I think it's across the board. I will say for your treatment port here, I think in some of the other places, you get in those more populated areas, the services are easier to come by for treatment port. And I think those are easier to get potentially at a less cost than you may run into here in Fremont County. But I think as far as having to make hard decisions and decide on, what programs, what cuts they have to do, I think that is happening across the state.
So what is being done about getting qualified people in fill these positions? I mean, we're talking about I said it earlier, clinical supervisor, to get our folks up trained good enough where they don't need a clinical supervisor. But then it's tough to find anybody. I mean, and any mental health facility is struggling. A private hospital, of course, they can pay the big dollars. We can't, and we're saddled with limited budgets, and we're dealing with Title 25. We're dealing with CAST. We're dealing with JTC. Not I'm not comparing them. I'm just saying that we have a lot of things that, what's frustrating to us is that the state has historically been all in on programs like CAS, JTC, and Title 25, if you will. And then as soon as they get us, as soon as they set the hook, they start retreating backwards as far as their funding contributions. And then we're stuck with the mandated program. So how as the judicial branch, how are they being funded?
Mr. Chairman, so as far as the treatment court funding, obviously that comes through the legislature, and there is a set amount that we're given to fund treatment courts through our grant application and then that surcharge. And that's really the money that is given out to the programs based on the Behavioral Health Committee's recommendation to the Judicial Council. And I do think, as far as and Director Goff can jump in and talk about this, I know we have worked with her on trying to find the clinical supervisor. We did reach out to some individuals in Casper, also an individual in Lusk that could potentially serve for an interim period until that position is found. I think the mental health crisis is hard across the state. We've also reached out to a program in Casper that could potentially do some telehealth as well. That's kind of in the early stages, but we certainly have tried to see what we can provide and help her with as far as resources and obtaining these people. But filling those positions, it's hard. I mean, it's hard.
Is there just not any interest, or is the private sector grabbing most of them up and just paying more money?
Mr. Chairman, I would say that I think they're in Wyoming, you obviously have the limited pool, but I do think that the private sector plays a role in that as well, as far as those mental health providers.
Mr. Chairman, when I look at the budget here, we gave the circuit court, the drug court, $316,000. Then I look at the juvenile probation, that's all in that program, right? Or is that a different program?
Mr. Chairman, Commissioner, I will come back to Director Goff as far as how the
Because the juvenile probation was $630,000. So we're at close to $1 million
So
range, right?
youth services is different than our JTC or our CAS. It's a completely different program, ran by Patty, the assistant director, who is with the probation officers in that program. So they're not a part of the treatment courts.
Okay. So in the 63% that we're talking about, what does the juvenile probation, is that a part of that program?
No,
No.
no,
Okay, so then we just have the 316,000 that we've donated to through the county, is that correct?
for treatment courts,
Yeah.
I believe so, yeah.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Mr. Chairman.
Yep.
I have to say that I really agree with what Brady said. It is scary. And I think everybody's just kind of like at awe of what's gonna happen here pretty quickly. And how bad it's gonna be. It feels like a train wreck coming we've never seen before. And that scares me terribly. We've got an issue in this county and they seem to just turn their heads like it doesn't even exist. Unfortunately. Or they don't believe that any money should have to go into anything. So I don't understand their thinking, but that's their opinion. I probably don't want to know how it is. But I agree with the chairman that I think everybody's sitting on pins and needles. It was bad last year, it's gonna be worse this year. I had a train wreck this year. From what I'm watching. So I don't know how we have to get really creative, I believe. The situation in this county is off the charts. So I don't know how. And then you've got private sector, like we can't find anybody to even fill these positions. Because they could sit there and double and triple our amount, we don't have the money to do this and fix it. And that's just probably supply and demand on people. You know, so kind of like your housing, supply and demand that went through the roof. So I really don't, I'm like you guys, you know, just sitting, everybody sitting there scratching their head and freaking out really, you know, of what we're gonna do. And then when we get there, how we're gonna deal with it. And I think that's when all of us, when all said and done, after the legislation gets done, then we'll have a better idea of where we're at. I think until then, it's just assumptions. You know, when we can't play off of what we did last year because we don't know, even though we're sitting here trying to figure out who paid for this, and it's mandated as well. You know, all these different statutes that mandates us to do things. Well, then when they want to take it away, how do you do? I mean, it almost makes us criminals because we can't meet our mandates, you know, so do we bankrupt the counties, bankrupt everything else? What do we do with our kids? You know, it's got these problems. Everybody's falling through the cracks at that point. But it seems like other people have other notions of, doesn't matter. It'll take care of itself somehow. You know, unicorns are gonna show up and fairy dust. So, I don't know. I really feel bad for the judges. I feel bad for the whole system. I feel bad for these kids that are, it's not, products of their environment. A lot of it, it's horrifying to think of what some of these kids are going through, and they don't know any different. So, I don't know, this is the stuff that keeps you up at nights. Really, keeps us up. So,
So have you submitted a proposed budget to joint appropriations or?
So it is part of the judicial branch budget, that goes to appropriations, for the amount that we requested for treatment courts. And I'm going off of memory here, Mr. Chairman. I do believe that we requested, the same amount as our last funding cycle. Again, I think, as Commissioner Wilson said, I think there's a level of unknown, as to what that will absolutely look like. But yes, Mr. Chairman, it was a part of the judicial branch's budget.
And have they interviewed you and have you testified before them yet?
Mr. Chairman, so our state court administrator, Elisa Butler, and our deputy court administrator, Claire Smith, did, and Chief Justice Baumgarten did go testify, about the budget. And then I think they will have another session, here early this month.
How was that received?
I would tell you, Mr. Chairman, that we, there didn't seem to be a whole lot of pushback. Again, I think they think there's many unknowns, as you've all said. So, but our moving forward right now, we are working under the assumption that we will get what we received for the last funding cycle. Again, you know, does that have the potential to change? As all of you know,
Sure.
it absolutely could.
I have Judge Carter. When you're sitting on the bench, do you see a lot of repeat juveniles come through? Once they get through the program, do you see a lot? We're seeing 2 and 3 and 4 times, or this program saying, okay, we got this kid through and he's doing pretty good out there now. Or what's your feel?
Since I don't see juveniles, I don't really have an answer to that question as far as juveniles go. I can answer as far as adults go. That a large majority, I don't have the numbers at my fingertips, but a large majority of people who graduate the adult drug court program, I don't see again. Whereas people with addiction problems that don't go through the problem, I see 2 or 3 times a year or more. And they just keep coming back on public intoxes or possessions of whatever. So I can't answer it as far as juveniles go. And I don't know what the exact recidivism rate is, but in the 4+ years I've been on the bench, people that have graduated from drug court and then come back, I can count on my fingers.
That's
It's a
good
very
news.
small number.
That's real good
uh,
news.
People that have graduated and then returned. Now, people that failed the program, they almost always come back,
Okay.
you know, so. Again, I don't have exact numbers, but just anecdotally, the success rate is high.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
That's true.
Yeah.
That's good news. If there's any good news out of any of this stuff, that's good news. The situation that I see is we've got a bigger increase since COVID in juvenile. That's just went through the roof. And it's escalating to bigger crimes. I mean, serious, scary stuff. And that's why I don't understand why a legislative body can't get it. You know, we've got problems. Are you not listening? Are you just tuning it out? You just putting your head in the sand? What's up? We need help on with our communities. We need help in our municipalities, with the county. We can't bear all this. And, you know, I think that we've got funding in the state. I mean, that's why we put money into things and investments so we can somehow or another pay for things that we need paid for. But I don't get it. I really don't get it. So, I think I'd like to see us have a really big conversation kind of after legislation. I think that's when we really need to come together and figure out what we're gonna do. I think we'll have a much better eyes on view, understanding, and we'll know where we're at. Then what do we do? How do we handle this? What are we gonna go after? Can we get bigger grants? Can we get federal grants? I mean, that's where I think we're gonna have to wrap our heads on multiple levels of things, really across the board, but this is one of my pet peeves is this, and how to deal with this. Cause I see it, and it's just heartbreaking, really. So how do you fix this? Do we do something else? Do we come up with a different strategy? You know, I mean, wow, it's huge. And that's why I like to have these conversations, and the public can hear this and see what's going on in their communities. Cause sometimes I really don't think that they understand it, what's going on. And, how do we do better, and do we do more laws, you know, that come down harder for consequences? Or is it a bunch of stuff that we need to put together? That's the $52 question. So I don't know that you guys trying to really. And we're gonna do the best we can, of course, to help. But we're limited too. So,
Where do you go from here?
yeah,
And so, Mr. Chairman, I think that we, Director Goff put in her application, and hopefully, again, from the judicial branch perspective, we should have, you know, decisions on those amounts that will be awarded to programs by late March, is when those should be out there. I will say, I think, I know that one of the things we had looked at that we can talk about as well, and I think Director Goff had mentioned it, is in the letter where the 25%, one of the things we reached out to her is in the grant application in the budget. So the letter from the commission is at the 25%. I think it was 70,000 for CAST, and 51,508 for JTC, the juvenile program. In her budget, she did put for CAST, $149,449.05 as the county's portion, for year 26 and 27. And in the juvenile, so the JTC, she put a $95,563.04. And so I would ask this body if those figures are something this body thinks that they're willing to do. The reason I'm asking is it kind of plays into the funding when we present it to the Behavioral Health Committee. Again, does anybody know what the legislature is going to do? No. There aren't any, so we go through our awards. Director Goff would get an award letter end of March. There aren't any contracts in place. We work through those after that. So it would be, you all would then be able to know, kind of where you're going to be sitting for your budget. And if that were that we can't and we need to look at substantial cuts, then we could still look at that. It's not that there is the contract signed, it's requiring that with the judicial branch at that point. That contract would be with you all after those award letters. So probably towards June, that time frame, June, July.
Julie.
Mr. Chairman, so looking at what we paid for our portions last year, I just had pulled those up before he said those numbers. Roughly for the JTC last year was 136,689. He's now saying approximately 96,000. Let's just round if we could. And then for CAST last year we paid 262,144. This year you're saying 149. So those are significantly down for us, significantly. So not quite half, but very close.
Right.
And when I presented the grants to the commissioners, I don't know if you guys recall, I really tried to focus the grant application on all of our wages because that is a substantial amount, to hopefully alleviate some of that. And then some of the other things I asked for within our surcharge. So at any rate, it's still going to be creative on my end on how we navigate this. But I also, when I presented the letter, while I talked about those figures in my presentation, I did not add those figures into my letter. I did the 25% match. And so Victor and I had those discussions, and I believe Kurt and I had as well, that, while I presented them, it still wasn't in the letter of that presentation. So my goal is that if those are numbers that you agree, we can maybe do a new letter. If not, I can go back and fix my grant, but it is a significant cut in our grant as well. And so that was another piece that I was hoping to address today and bring up this. Maybe we can get.
So I know that CAS, I don't know about JTC, but I know that CAS deals with adults who are involved with opiate treatment, opiate prevention, opiate detox, and since we're working with them. So Chairman, can we, in that, Julie, in that funding, could we utilize opiate settlement funding for a county entity?
Mr. Chairman, I'm not in charge of that grant, but just from listening to what we have for the last several weeks, I think that would be a good place to take it to as a prevention group and just ask them that question. It could be a line item in their budget to definitely do like what we've done today for BOA and for potentially Eagles Hope is the next one. So if it
Yeah.
meets those criterias, I think you could do that.
Because Chairman, if we're funding Eagles Hope, and I know Eagles Hope, CAS does more than Eagles Hope would ever do in a sense of treatment
Mhm.
because of the issue of how they do treatment. So if we're gonna fund Eagles Hope, which doesn't do probably even close to what CAS does, then I would say that if you could write up something to present for opiate settlement fund request, because I think if we can do that, I think that's how we're gonna help the program.
I think
If-
part of the problem we had when we first got to settlement was the parameters were so vague. And then when we tried to initiate a program,
Yeah, we
we were
couldn't,
denied that. And then now it seems like it's kind of let up a little bit and opened it up, but like the canines, for instance, that's for a different agency, that's for, I mean,
right,
granted, there'll be shared duty, but I agree with you that if you could, Sage, if you could write up something and identify how many, cash, folks there were, participants there were, and what their treatment was, and so on and so forth. And as far as that goes, even if there was some JTC stuff, if there was some, you could identify them. I don't see where it would be a huge problem, where that might be able to make up the deficit that we can't come up with.
right. Yeah, because that's changed since when we started and now.
Right.
So things that, yeah, so a lot of this is new for us. It's like, well, we couldn't do that before, And then another thing I wanted to ask you is the budget, the, cost of the SLCs that went up significantly. So is that included in, like, did you include your SOC? I mean,
All of the wages that I included are what are currently, held at. I've not gotten any updates on any changes of SOC since I've been appointed. So that is currently what everybody is at right now, which
So
is
they would be current.
Mr. Chairman, could you give us a target amount total? What we're looking for, right, money wise?
for county,
Yeah, for this county, for Fremont County.
the,
Any ideas there?
go ahead.
Mr. Chairman, Mr. Commissioner. So for the CAS, the adult program for 27-28, the amount that Sage had put in her budget was 149,449.05. And then the JTC, the amount for both year 27 and year 28 as well would be $95,563.04. And again, that is down quite a bit from the 25, which again I will attribute to Director Goff in really tightening up. I think the budget that she submitted with her application, she really looked at it and tried to make some cuts that she felt like the program could handle.
So that was roughly about what Julie had said. Commissioner.
so if we could shift. Well, we didn't shift, couldn't before. This other pool of money that will come in. We can do something. That'll take a lot of pressure off the cooker.
So, Mr. Chairman, I want to be clear that I need to talk to the treasurer.
Yeah.
Grants and stuff. I don't want to be in a
Right.
supplanting
If we can,
problem. We're talking money that might just be able to go into the program to help them, not the match.
okay,
We want to keep that separate because there are certain criteria that we're required to keep
Okay.
them out of trouble. So we
yeah,
don't want to be taking a grant to give this one grant to be art. We
right,
can't do that. But to help the program, if we find that we need SOC adjustments or we hire more people or whatever,
right,
that is what I'm thinking of, that we have the ability to
Yeah.
do that through the opioids. It wouldn't necessarily hit you so hard in the get general
Right.
fund area. So I'll be clear about that,
right,
as clear as I can be without talking to the treasurer.
I was thinking a similar deal that we could wait to see what the grant process does,
mhm,
how that comes up. and any shortfalls below your projected numbers
Mhm.
stage, then we can talk to the opioid settlement folks and see if they can make up the difference.
Okay.
But I would still get those numbers ready
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
have that conversation, just to be prepared.
I can do that.
That way we got some kind of game plan.
Mhm.
Anything else?
Mr. Chairman, that's not for me. Thank you all again for having us and inviting us. to speak.
I would like to see you guys after
Sally?
legislation.
Sally, Kurt, you, anything further?
Mr. Chairman, I was just gonna mention that, earlier this summer, we started peer review with the judicial branch where we're matching up treatment courts to kind of do an audit, if you will, of each other, so we can kind of identify areas where programs are doing really well and areas where programs might need some assistance. We purposely chose the Fremont County program because we recognize from the branches in that it's a very well-run program. They have great judicial leadership.
Mhm.
Sage kind of jumped into a fire pit, if you will,
Mhm.
and has done a really remarkable job with that. And so by that, they have also then helped us trying to fine tune our peer review process. And so just wanted to let you guys know that at least for us in the judicial branch in Cheyenne, we really recognize this program as being one of our top performers in the state.
It's good to hear. Thank you. Okay, so you're going back to Cheyenne?
We are, Mr. Chairman, we are actually in town. We're doing a training tomorrow afternoon and Thursday morning for all of our treatment court program. Coordinators are coming here to Lander to do some training with us. So we're actually in town till Friday.
Nice. Well, enjoy your stay.
Thank you.
Yeah, another
Thank you
thing,
very much.
one other thing, real quick, I think if we put something together, wasn't that part of, didn't the WCCA last year have some help with this? Because it was kind of an issue last year. And it's every county. So maybe that might be something they would be willing to help with. That's what we're all there for. We're there to work together. And not that the legislators want any associations anymore either, but, that's why we need to do. So maybe network with Jeremiah and that. See if there's any interest. The WCCA.
Okay, well, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Have a good day.
As well.
Thank you.
You.
We need a motion to go into executive session for personnel
Someone,
and potential litigation.
someone seconded.
All those in favor?
I.
We will get ready to go into executive session. Nothing?
Oh, sorry, I was trying to remember back. Recap, I will make the changes to the liaisons, list and get that back out to you for next week. And I'll work with Julie to, advertise the budget for next week. And then I think have you replying to the two.
Yeah, and I got your response from Nathan, so I'll use that. And then I'll go from there off that, with that other.
That's all I have.
Anything?
Changed your 2005 to 2026.
On what? I thought I wrote 26.
Maybe the other, maybe the other page.
It's
You
okay.
did on the other.
I'm still writing, I'll be writing
try.
25 for a while.
You got one up too.
Had it in my mind.
Okay.
Okay, Commissioner,
To adjourn.
Second.
all those in favor?
Bye.
We are adjourned.
Wrong.